Magic time from the chime from our producer, Rick Mercer, so it's my pleasure to call to order the Town Council regular meeting of March 5th. It always does me good to see this many people here and see some citizen involvement. So thank all of you for coming along tonight. We're going to start out by calling roll. If I could ask the clerk to please call the roll.
Mayor Gupton.
Here.
Mayor Pro Tem Vance.
Here.
Councilmember Behringer. Here. Councilmember Dellinger.
Here.
Councilmember Singleton.
Here.
And Councilmember Matthews.
Here.
Thank you. And I'm going to call on Councilmember Matthews for the Pledge of Allegiance and the invocation.
Please stand if you're able. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Let us pray. Most gracious Heavenly Father, we come before you tonight on the eve of so many things happening in this world, with our military around the world, with people killing each other and trying to find ways to live together. Lord, we have a big evening tonight where new leaders will be found and voted on and hopefully do great things, and most important, seek your wisdom as they make choices that affect this entire nation. Lord, I pray for our council tonight. Be with us as we deliberate on issues. Grant us wisdom to do the right things for our town and make good decisions. Lord, we just thank you for your mercy and your grace. Be with us and guide us, and I lift these prayers up to you in the name of Jesus. Amen.
Thank you, Mr. Matthews. At the beginning of the meeting here, we also opened the floor for petitions and comments. These are for comments about things that are not on the agenda. I know we have a number of people who will be talking about specific projects and specific issues later on, but we have a more generalized time at the beginning where people can ask questions about things related to town business that are not on the agenda. We do ask that it be germane to town policies and business, and keep things that we can actually have some jurisdiction over here. Topics requiring further investigation will be referred to the appropriate town officials or staff and may be scheduled for a future agenda as well. And I have one person who has signed up to speak, and that's Mr. Arthur Beckton. Are you here, Mr. Beckton? Yes, if you would come up, please, and address the council. Our producer is getting his exercise by spinning the podium for the different events here. Good thing he's in good shape. Mr. Beckton, if you wouldn't mind, state your name and your address for the record.
Arthur Beckton, 2007 Ford Gates Drive, Garner.
Thank you.
Yes, and I was just I was just at this meeting to just ask some of the folks that live on the street in the Woodlands neighborhood was concerned about the right-of-way that runs behind the house as far as the cleanup from the tornadoes on December 10th. Just to get an update, you know, everybody understand that it's still early in the process, but they just want to know where we're going with that.
Thank you. That's a legitimate concern. I'm not sure we have the answer here tonight, but I'm sure that someone on staff, on the town manager's staff, will be in touch, or unless you would like to address it now.
Sure. Mayor, Mr. Beckton, if I can get your contact information, I'll meet you in the back. I'll work with our Public Works Department to provide that update to you. Okay?
Excellent. Thank you.
Pass that right along. You've already pre-filled it, Mr. Beckton. Thank you very much. And thank you, Jody, for helping out on that one. Okay. Now, I didn't mention the 3-minute timer, and Mr. Beckton was well under the 3-minute limit for testimony here. An example to all of us for brevity and efficiency. That's a great thing, but we're still kind of on our soft opening, you might say, of our little 3-minute courtesy timer. And again, it is to remind you to be courteous of your neighbors when you're speaking before the council, particularly the citizens. We don't put the limit on staff or presenters, but we do ask folks who are having testimony to kind of pay attention to the 3-minute thing so that everybody has a fair chance to speak. And again, I want to assure you that when the 3 minutes runs out, there will be no hooks involved, no rude noises. The trap door will not open up this week. Now, later it might. So this is a good practice run for you. With that being said, we'll move along to the adoption of the agenda that has been presented to the council members. Most of you have a copy. Is there a motion from the council to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Second.
Ms. Behringer makes the motion, and that was Mr. Matthews, I think, who seconded it. And all in favor of adopting the agenda, I'm going to try this new radical thing to where we say yes instead of aye. So all in favor of adopting the agenda, please signify by saying yes.
Yes.
I watched Lincoln in the movie 2012 the other night, and guess what they said in all the votes in Congress? It wasn't yes and no. Check Robert's Rules of Order, but anyway.
Well, it could be another failed experiment, but we may go back to the ayes and the nays. But you're just trying to inject a little modern language in here.
That's right.
And by the way, you can say aye or nay or any expression of negativity, whatever.
And they did say no. They didn't say no. Back now, this is from 1865 too.
Oh, well, we've developed, I don't think they even had yes and no back then.
Not that.
But thank you, but we'll keep trying this. So all in favor, we got it passed unanimously that we'll adopt the agenda. And it's our pleasure tonight to start off with a presentation. And this is just the most outstanding thing. When I read this and read the background, it's just unbelievable what one of our local students has done, the recognition that they've received. When I heard about the Congressional Award gold medal, it's just staggering. It's given by the president. It's a nationwide deal for young people who have demonstrated initiative, high achievement, commitment to service in their communities. And when I read what this young man had done to achieve that, it's just astounding. It's just astounding. His friends call him Hemi. He's here with us tonight, and I'm going to ask Mayor Pro Tem Elma Vance to make the award and read the proclamation that we've passed to recognize Hemi for the outstanding work and the award that he's received.
Certificate of Recognition. Whereas Hemharsith Sivakumar Gayathri is highly motivated and high-achieving student ranked 5th in their class at South Garner High School, who also excels as a student in the CCP program at Wake Tech Community College, and whereas Hemharsith has earned FAA certification in private gliding, single-engine land, and commercial drone operation, thus demonstrating a strong interest and capability in aviation, and whereas Hemharsith has been a leader by founding the South Garner High School Cadet Titan Corps and being actively involved in the Civil Air Patrol, achieving the rank of Cadet Second Lieutenant, and whereas Hemharsith's commitment to service is evident through their roles as Junior Volunteer Firefighter, a certified Red Cross lifeguard, and member of the North Carolina Soaring Association, and whereas Hemharsith has previously received the Outstanding Academic Excellence Award from the President of the United States and the Community Oscar Award for Outstanding Student of the Year, now therefore, I, Buddy Gupton, Mayor of the Town of Garner, do hereby commend Hemharsith for their latest achievement, being honored with the Congressional Award Gold Medal, which is considered to be the highest recognition for youth that is bestowed by the United States Congress. Signed, Buddy Gupton, Mayor, Garner. Congratulations.
Congratulations, sir.
Yeah.
Take someone. You stand in.
Yeah, no.
I just want to know when we're going to fly.
Yeah, you are welcome. Now, since he's becoming a private pilot, and I offer, like, any one of you want to fly with him, welcome.
You fly good, though.
Yeah.
I served my mom up today. That was good.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Paparazzi.
I would like to thank you so much for every one of you here. Like, yeah. So if basically I believe in like the agreement between me and him is I give him money like when for flying when he does a volunteering. So he goes out and doing a volunteering. Basically I pay him. So he collect that money and he earns his like licensing or whatever he does. And now also I told him I asked him a promise like you need to make at least 10 people like you to give this next level, like, funding or anything, which if I'm going to give it to him. So he's agreed on that and hope he's going to keep up his word. Yeah, thank you so much. And I would like to take every one of you, like, if you feel like any volunteering program or anything which we want to establish, I'm willing to kind of, spend my time, all that. I have done my PhD in computer science and I'm an independent consultant.
Excellent. Thank you. And another round of applause for him and his family. An example, there's great teamwork behind that. Nobody does it alone. So thanks for the teamwork and the family support. Fantastic. We now come to the consent agenda, a number of items that have been discussed and reviewed previously by council and staff and have found their way onto the consent agenda. And I'm going to ask first if there's any council member who wishes to remove any items from the consent agenda. And hearing none, I'll ask for a motion to accept the consent agenda as it is.
So moved.
Second.
The motion comes from Councilman Singleton, seconded by Mr. Matthews. All in favor, please signify by saying aye like Abraham Lincoln said it, with meaning. Aye, there you go. Any nays, just shut up. It's unanimous. Thank you very much. Okay. And that being said, before we start on the public hearings, which are very interesting, and that's what most of you came for tonight, we're going to occasionally have what I call the thought for the week, or the little speech of the week, a little mini thought for the day, you might say. And Mr. Matthews had asked if he might share just a thought or two, and then from time to time, as other council members have a general statement they'd like to make. We have plenty of time for council reports and business later, but just to have kind of a thought for the day. Mr. Matthews, you had some ideas on this?
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Is one of the older guys on the board, not maybe the oldest, but one of them anyway. Congratulations, Dad. I know you're proud of that young man. So. But we got talking about this, and a lot of mornings I get out and sit on my front porch. I live over near Lake Benson, and have my morning coffee and just kind of watch what's going on around me. The school buses coming and going, people going in, work, whatever they do. Some turn to the left, some turn to the right, and I often wonder, where are all y'all going and what's going on in your life? And so it kind of got me to thinking about Wake County and the growth we're having here. And all of y'all live in Wake County. I don't have to say a whole lot about that, but about 70 people a day move into Wake County. And so we're seeing a lot of growth. Everybody is needing a place to live. They need schools for their kids to go and get an education, which is most important, jobs. And what a time that we're living in. I'm so glad I'm living to see this. This is amazing to see what's happening in our town here. I know a lot of elected officials, having served on this board and a Wake County commissioner and through the different towns. I've gotten to be friends with a lot of elected officials, and I talk to them quite frequently. Our friends down in Fuquay Arena, Apex, Cary, and even up in Wake Forest, Miss Vivian up there, we talk from time to time, and just about what's going on. And but one thing seems like we all have in common, that's a lot of traffic. People are coming and they're going. And in Garner, fortunately, we've got quite a array of roads where a lot of towns don't. We've got Highway 70 out here, and 401 South, Old Stage, I-40, Highway 50, and any given morning or afternoon, you sit out there and you're going to see a lot of people coming and going. But most of them are coming, just passing through Garner from Johnson County, South Wake, Harnett County, but they're passing through here, all heading to Raleigh or surrounding areas for their jobs or whatever they're doing. So this concept in mind, thinking, so what can we do about something that we really don't have a whole lot of control of as city councilmen and as people live here, because most of it falls in the DOT. They build the roads and make these things happen. Well, we just continue to move forward as a growing town. That's what we can do, and deal with the things that we truly have control of, i.e. quality of new developments that's coming in. We create some new ways of dealing with those folks wanting to develop in our community and work together to achieve same goals, which I think is wonderful. Variety of home styles coming in, commercial businesses. And so my thought is just, if we can keep that in mind, deal with the things that we truly have control of, and work together as a council, as well as those people who want to come and grow their businesses in Garner, live in Garner, build homes in Garner, and just make Garner continue to be a great place to be. And so Mayor says, let's all just aim high and work together and make all this happen. That's my thought of the day, Mr. Mayor.
Very positive one, thank you, and remind us it's all relative. You think you got traffic, go to Atlanta. Hey, go to Morrisville. You don't have to go far. Keep it in perspective. It's part of growth. It's part of what happens. That being said, let's talk about some exciting developments on the development front. I believe the first one we have is a public hearing. We have several of these. We do have some people perhaps signed up to speak from the audience, but we'll start. And the first one is Dower Light Industrial, a voluntary contiguous annexation petition. And fortunately, we have Mr. Jeff Triesenberg, our planning director, on hand to give us a little overview and kind of set this up for us. If you would, please, Jeff.
Mr. Mayor, did you read the preamble for the public hearings?
I didn't read every word, but I'll be glad to. You know how much I love to read. Okay. The public hearings on tonight's agenda for annexations and rezonings are legislative hearings which do not require sworn testimony, unlike some of the quasi-judicial that are a little different that we're used to. However, persons interested in speaking, including the applicant, must sign up with the town clerk. Town staff will present a report followed by the applicant, and persons supporting or opposing the application will be recognized to speak. Council requests groups of individuals with the same position to designate a representative to speak for the group to avoid redundancy and to be fair to everybody. So it's always a good reminder. Thank you, my town attorney, my Jiminy Cricket, my conscience, the one who's always keeping me between the ditches so far. Thank you, Terry. And now to Jeff.
Mr. Mayor, council members, members of the public. Yes, tonight, first public hearing is for an annexation. This is for the project which you all approved just a couple of months ago. So this was submitted by the property owner, who is Dewar Properties LLC. And this is to bring 1.84 acres into the primary corporate limits of the town of Garner. Again, this is just across the way from East Garner Middle School, generally located just north of 101 High Hope Lane, which is this parcel right here. And so, again, this petition did accompany that Tier 2 plan.
Can you hold a minute, Jeff, and let them bring you the super mic over there?
Thank you. Yes, so again, this is related to the Tier 2 rezoning request that you all approved a couple of months ago. The property is currently in the town's ETJ, but would be brought into the corporate limits. Per our merger agreement with Raleigh, the petitions are required in order for them to agree to extend that service. I will note that we did provide you a revised ordinance for this case at your desk. Correcting the annexed area to 1.84 acres. This little piece right here is actually part of the parcel that was legally described. For some reason, this was annexed years ago, but it's legally one parcel, so there's just about 1.14 acres that is actually already in the corporate limits. Usually there's no harm in double annexing something, but just to be clear and have everything tidied up, we did correct the annexation ordinance to just be the 1.84 that is not currently in. So again, the next steps for these annexations is to just finish conducting and closing the public hearing and considering adoption of that ordinance with an effective date of today.
Thank you very much, Mr. Triesenberg. Does the applicant wish to make any additional presentation? Okay. So we will go to the council members. Excuse me. Is this the applicant? Yes, sir. Okay, excellent.
I was just going to let you know I'm available to answer questions.
Okay. Well, thank you very much. Thank you. He does.
If you could just
he does
state your name
job.
and address for the record.
My name is John Frazier. I'm with Engineering. Our address is 8951 Harvest Oaks Drive, Suite 205 in Raleigh, and I'm the civil engineer representing the applicant.
Thank you. Yes, I think the council has seen this several different times from several different ways, and there's a lot of good information on it. Thank you very much.
Thank you all.
Okay. But saying that, now let me give the council members a chance to see if there's any other questions or anything you would have for Mr. Triesenberg or the applicant. Questions? Okay. Hearing no further questions, and there's no one else signed up to speak that I'm aware of, we're going to close the public hearing, and I'm going to ask council members, is there a motion to adopt this ordinance?
I move to adopt ordinance 2024-5255.
Mr. Vance has made it, and Ms. Behringer has seconded it. All in favor of approving this ordinance, adopting this ordinance, please signify by saying aye.
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 Any opposed by nay? None. This passes unanimously. Thank you very much, Mr. Triesenberg. And while you're there, Mr. Triesenberg, if you wouldn't mind, talk to us about the Wall Store Tier 2 conditional rezoning.
Absolutely. And Ashley, again, does send her best. She's getting closer as the weeks go by. So this is CZMP 2302. Like you were saying, Mr. Mayor, a Tier 2 rezoning request. We've assigned it just a generic case name of Wall Store Road. The applicant in this case is Capital Partners of North Carolina. The owner, Michael Braxton Poole, CAM Holdings LLC. This is 8.95 acres total. There are two parcels in whole. There's one right here where an existing house is located, a surrounding larger piece. The request also includes a small corner of the formerly approved Burnett Farms subdivision. So that's why you see rural agricultural is the zoning for the two parcels in whole, but then we do have that little bit of multifamily B conditional zoning already. This request would seek to have the entire area zoned multifamily B with a new conditional district designation. This would be for a request of a maximum of 60 townhouses. Again, here, as noted, you can see it better. You have the rural agricultural existing zoning here on the majority of the site, and that little bit corner of multifamily B. Mostly a mix of residential zonings around here, ranging from that rural agricultural all the way up to the existing multifamily B for Burnett Farms. Water and sewer are readily available, and the project does front on Wall Store Road. And if you'll recall, and I'll be able to show you this in a subsequent graphic, there is a new minor collector street that would come through Burnett Farms, and this project would continue that and carry it out to Wall Store Road. Turning to our new comprehensive plan, this is a snippet of the framework map. As you can see here, we have a neighborhood activity center in the kind of the western quadrant of Rock Quarry Road and Auburn-Knightdale Road. This site sits just outside of that. Most of these roads, Rock Quarry is a collector, but it also functions as a commuter route from this general area into southeast and downtown Raleigh. Auburn-Knightdale connects to, you might be able to see just a little bit of red through the caption down here, where the transit-oriented activity center is at the Auburn station. Traffic does show steady upward trajectory since 2011 and 2013. At this time, both roadways do still have some capacity for growth. We are seeing them upgraded with separate infrastructure for pedestrians and cyclists with that development. On the other hand, Wall Store Road is currently just kind of a rural country road that connects Auburn Church to Rock Quarry. Again, this roadway probably has more capacity for growth than the others, but it does lack separate infrastructure for pedestrians and cyclists. And then, of course, we have probably right out about in here, again, you'll see this better in another graphic, the 540 corridor comes up through and crosses Rock Quarry, and there will be an interchange here. So this area will be heavily influenced by that future transportation improvement. Related to the rezoning specifically, they have narrowed it to 2 out of a possible 18 uses. Structures are supposed to be more urban in character, located closer to the street than what you would find in our MFA district. Parking generally not out in front of buildings. That speaks more to non-residential though. These multifamily developments are to be more clustered around active areas, allowing people to live closer to places where they work and play. So that certainly ties into the idea of this future activity center here. And some non-residential or mixed-use structures may occur in conjunction with this, although I don't know that our UDO currently promotes that for within the MFB district. So here you see the proposal on the left, and they have proposed other conditions related to amenities and aesthetics. The site is fairly small. We have an existing pond down here that is being preserved. You do have a public greenway along this stream corridor, so it would connect to the plans in Burnett Farms. It would connect on that end, and I'm sure some very astute people will know that there also is a public greenway corridor in Auburn Village that stubs out somewhere over in this area. The stream kind of cuts through that corner of this adjacent parcel, so there will be a small gap in the short term, but we would be looking to complete that gap either with development or this property or through some other funding mechanism in the future. But you do see all of the amenities and aesthetics there. If there's any questions, I know the applicant can certainly respond to that, but of note, no vinyl siding, 20% masonry on those front elevations. Slabs will be covered except in the rear by masonry, and there will be covered entryways and porches. Here's a composite that we were able to put together just so you could see the proximity of this to Burnett Farms. So you see the apartment complex here and some of the proposed townhomes with that development, including 2 blocks of townhomes right here. And then there's a road that would connect into the collector here, and there's that collector being pushed out to Wall Store Road. We did asked the applicant within the last few days if they could clarify whether or not this project will be an extension of Burnett Farms. They have confirmed that this will be part of the Burnett Farms HOA and the larger development if approved. So getting to the master plan data, again, we're at 8.95 acres, 60 townhomes maximum. This part is subject to the new UDO, so there is 0.87 acres of additional open space required to what is in Burnett Farms. 25% must be active. Combination of conservation and recreation space. There is, again, quite a bit of conservation down here along the stream buffer, as well as a wider perimeter buffer up in this area. And recreation at this time consists of field and trails. Our review of the open space we did look at it right now as an independent project, but that is something that we will have to continue to evaluate going forward if this will be part of the larger Burnett Farms, just making sure that everything fits together, but still meeting the requirements that it needs to meet. In terms of stormwater and utilities, this isn't in the watershed protection area for Lake Benson. We're on the other side of the railroad tracks. It is subject to water quality and quantity requirements, and they'll have that one wet pond or constructed wetland. There will be a connection to the new water main coming out of Burnett Farms, as well as a connection to the 8-inch outfall along the creek here that comes out, extends from Auburn Village into Burnett Farms. In terms of transportation, they were asked to update numbers with the TIA for Burnett Farms. There would be 407 trips generated generally by these additional townhouses. You see the AM and PM trips there. The TIA was updated in February of 2023. And again, we would just want to note that this will complete a new collector between Auburn, Knightdale, and Wallstore Road. Congestion management reviewed this against the original TIA, did not find the need for any additional improvements beyond what was already being provided with Burnett Farms. We do have the existing stream again and associated buffers along the southern edge of the property. So you can kind of see there how that stream, if we're following the northern bank with the greenway, does need to cut across this corner of that adjacent parcel. That southern area again is generally reserved for tree preservation and those trails that include the segment of public greenway. There were no cultural resources identified on these parcels. In terms of public review, 126 properties and occupants were notified for the neighborhood meetings, which were held on June 1st and September 7th of last year. 28 attendees at the first meeting and 11 at the second. And the full meeting information is attached in the agenda. When looking at all of the comprehensive plan, again, you see the framework map here. The land use character, or the land character type, is mixed use area typology, and it is a level 4A area to transform. So when we're looking at the heights we do expect the 3 to 5 story range being the predominant for this area here in the peach color. And when staff ran this past the growth framework, we found 13 of those framework criteria fit this project. And you see the breakdown there from strongly consistent to strongly inconsistent. Again, we found a lack of a playground open space feature not presented as part of this project. I'm also not sure right off the top of my head what was included in the Burnett Farms package. But again, we would need to discuss that further as to whether, if they do have a playground, if that would qualify, or whether we should look to have a playground over here. The plan does encourage a distribution of open spaces, so it would probably be good to have something in this area as well, and not just all centrally located. When we looked at Article 3 of the plan, land use and community character consistency, we identified 27 of the recommendations with a slight lean towards consistency at this time. Again, you see the breakdown there. Minor changes, additional details could make this stronger in terms of its consistency with the plan. Most of those would focus around enhancing the street frontages further than already proposed, using the open space to create a stronger central focal point for the neighborhood. Again, we would want to consider that a little more in light of Burnett Farms, and proffering any additional conditions that may speak more directly to specific recommendations of the plan. So overall, we do feel that with some fine-tuning in response to this evaluation and additional public input, we do think that we will be able to support an overall finding of consistency once this would get to Planning Commission, and that full detail is attached in the agenda packet. So our next steps are, again, to finish conducting and closing the public hearing if so desired. If the public hearing is closed, then the Planning Commission would take it up and produce their findings of plan consistency and recommendation to you for approval or denial. And then it would come back to you for your findings of reasonableness and an ultimate decision as to whether approve or deny. And that is all I have. The applicant is here to speak. They do not have a formal presentation, but I'll also try to do my best to answer any questions that you have as well.
Hey, thank you, Mr. Trazenberg. Are there any questions at this point for Mr. Trazenberg from council members?
One question, yes. In reference, Jeff, in reference to the completion of I-540 for that section of the highway, is this still on schedule for roughly 2027?
I have not heard that it's slipped, so I believe it is still currently on schedule. They're pressing forward.
Any other questions for Mr. Trazenberg at this point? We can always come back. Okay, thank you, Jeff. And oh, you do have a question? Yes.
Questions and comments. So this is sort of a part of a larger Auburn, Knightdale 540 development area. So we've got part of it that's in our jurisdiction and part of it that's in Raleigh's, but I'm going to come back to that in a second. This project, when I first looked at it, it looks like an infill project before anything's been filled in. And that's a concern. This is sort of growth by 1,000 cuts. Because I remember this Burnett Farms project when it came before us, and I was afraid on the record that it would get piecemealed together when they didn't want to do a complete rezoning. And this is what we're seeing here. And the revelation that it's going to be a part of the same development in HOA gives me more concerns that it's going to be piecemealed together along one of our high transit corridors. So I have a lot of issues with that. But the bigger question is, what is Raleigh doing? Because I see a ton of construction on Rock Quarry Road. So we have neighborhood, this falls within, in close proximity to neighborhood and community activity centers, which are supposed to be mixed use, commercial, et cetera, et cetera. So what's happening in Raleigh? Because what I'm concerned with, what's going to happen on our side, is an overdevelopment of residential, and in the commercial going to the Raleigh side, or what's going on in Raleigh? I mean, we're talking traffic impacts, we're talking access to 540 in the future. How are we, or how is the developer coordinating with the growth that Raleigh's doing and the projects on that side? I know they own other property on the other side, some 300 acres, some of that'll be 540. But what type of coordination are we doing with the city of Raleigh and their growth planning for this area? And how do we make sure we don't end up on the short end of the stick when it comes to what gets put in this part of Garner?
I can respond to some of that if you'd like, and then I'll encourage the applicant to respond as well. The last that I am familiar with Raleigh, it's probably been a few months since I've spoken to them directly. So we have our, as you noted, Mr. Dellinger, there's our Community Activity Center over here, our Neighborhood Activity Center here. Originally, I would say maybe 2 years ago, Raleigh was planning for what I would call a major activity center at this same intersection. couple of months ago, and this had been in the works, I believe, for a while, they're actually looking at moving their activity center further north. And actually concentrating on more supportive residential down in this area as opposed to commercial. I forget the name of the next road up. Let me go here to over here. This is, sorry, my road network isn't up. I don't know if anybody knows the name of this road right here. Whitfield? Yes, so they are looking to relocate their activity center more up in this area. You do see, these appear to be fairly new. I don't remember seeing these before. Some single family to residential and trying to get more commercial, I think, right in here. So that's what I understand to be their latest plan. But we'd be glad to reach out to them and confirm and just make sure that we've got a good understanding of that and if that's changed.
You need to coordinate because every time we always hear there's not enough rooftops for commercial, there aren't enough rooftops for commercial. Well, if Raleigh's going to put commercial right up the road, that's going to leave us stuck with doing the residential. So that's one of my concerns. And when that Burnett Farms project came the first time, they were very assertive without being committal on having strong commercial activity there. I'll pass on in a second, but you know, it's the activity and community neighborhood, the community activity centers and neighborhood activity centers aren't specific sized boundaries on our map. They're all icons that are the same size. It's supposed to be just kind of the circles themselves.
We did change the communities to be a larger, yeah.
And also, it's not consistent on the development framework either. So I've got some questions, but I'll pass.
Questions, comments? Okay, well, thank you very much, Mr. Triesenberg, and again, thank you for helping us try to figure out what's consistent with our comprehensive long-range plan. That's very important. We want to keep the big vision in sight all the time. At this point, we will recognize the applicant to give us some insight on this. So if you would mind, approach the podium and give us your name and address, please.
Good evening. I'm Beth Blackman with Timmons Group, 113 Logger Lane, Garner, North Carolina. Thank you for hearing our proposal this evening. We are excited to continue our work in Garner. Actually, I'll jump to the end of the note I added. So this project is a different developer than Burnett Farms. They were connected together a few years ago by David Bamford and encouraged to work together. But this project was behind the Burnett Farms project quite significantly. So they have been in discussions with each other, and they have been talking to, they've both been talking to the same builders, but they were not ever actually the same project. But the hope is, the intention is that for the HOAs to be together, for them to be able to share amenities. But anyway, I want to thank staff for the presentation, working through this rezoning. It has been a long time coming. And so the property is currently R2. As Mr. Triesenberg pointed out, located close to the Neighborhood Activity Center and the mixed use on the character map. So we have looked at it as a transition from the intersections of both Wall Store and Rock Quarry and Auburn Knightdale and Rock Quarry, and being sensitive to the existing development that is there, with Auburn Village being a age-restricted neighborhood. So we don't have any connections to Auburn Village. There were no existing stubs to this property, but we still want to be respectful of what they have and ensure that we have adequate buffering between the two. And so, as I said, this HOA will be shared with Burnett Farms, so they'll have shared amenities. So it would be access on both sides. You know, the Burnett Farms folks could get on the Greenway and come over to this open area, and vice versa. It's about 400 feet of Greenway. Obviously, it depends on how much there is curving around the pond and stuff like that. But 400 to 500 feet of additional Greenway would be added. Site is small. It's less than 9 acres. We have the existing pond, stream, wetlands, buffers on the site. So it does seem compact in the area, but that is to ensure that we have tree preservation, open space areas, and a logical, obviously the stormwater pond has to go where the stormwater pond has to go. So we did do all rear-loaded units, trying to ensure that we had a nice streetscape, both on our external streets on Washington Road, the new minor collector street, and then the internal streets as well. And if you use the center entrance into the site, you would kind of have like a nice streetscape coming down with units on both sides looking towards the stormwater pond and the existing pond. And so open space is very important with the Garner Forward Plan, and so we have tried to maximize the available area that we had while preserving the area as well. This proposes an east-west connector street off of the collector road, the proposed collector road. So this does allow development to continue along Wall Road in both directions, east and west, when those property owners, decide that they're ready to redevelop their property. We will be improving the frontage on Wall Road to half of the major collector. Burnett Farms does have quite a bit of off-site road improvements. This is all sort of tied in together. Those road improvements would come first because if Burnett Farms is further along, so they would be built before this project is built. And we did do the TIA at the town's request, and DOT did a courtesy review of it. As y'all have discussed earlier, the other side of Wallster Road is in Raleigh's planning jurisdiction. I do know there is a large development proposed on the other side that has a little bit of frontage on Wallster Road, but most of it is on Rock Quarry Road. As was mentioned, we had 2 neighborhood meetings. The first was very heavily attended. We had quite a bit of Auburn Village residents and Wallster Road residents in that meeting. I had a lot of good conversation. The second meeting, I think the note said 11, but I really think it was like 4 neighbors and the rest of it was us. I think we outnumbered the residents. At that one, it was the adjacent property owners, 1 Auburn Village resident, and then a new homeowner that wasn't a resident when we got the first letter, but was a resident on the second letter that lived on Rock Quarry Road. So they actually lived in Raleigh's jurisdiction. And then we have the team here for y'all tonight. If you have questions, I'm here for questions. Jeff Hokenadel, our traffic engineer, is here. There are some adjacent property owners here as well in support. The Mike Negriga is the project developer, and he has a few words to share. And like I said, if you have any questions now or later, we're available.
Okay, let's hear from Mike next, and then we'll see if we have some other questions for the applicant.
Okay, sure. Thank you.
Thank you. Yes, and if you would state your name and address for the record, please.
Yes, I'm Mike Nadriga. Address is 1540 Grand Willow Way in Raleigh. Good evening, Mayor Gupton and members of the Town Council. My name is Mike Nadriga. I'm the owner of Capital Properties of North Carolina, as well as CAM Holdings, LLC. We're small businesses that originated in Garner several years ago. Though I've recently relocated to northern Raleigh, I've lived in Garner for many of the last 29 years, and I'm excited to see the tremendous growth within the town as well as in the areas east of the town with construction of I-540 well underway. My business is focused on property acquisition and residential development in the areas of Garner, Clayton, and Raleigh. I'm currently under contract to purchase a 7.7 acres property at 2930 Wallstore Road, and I already own the 1 acre property at 2921 Wallstore Road. I've had the pleasure of working with Madison Holding LLC over the last 24 months to coordinate access to utilities and roadways from the Burnett Farm subdivision so we can create a similar high-quality development connected by a common property line and the proposed right-of-way. We're here tonight to propose a master plan for the property on Wallstore Road, and I've worked closely with Madison Holding to ensure that our proposed development complements Burnett Farms with a common HOA, shared amenities, public mobility, and new roadway connectivity to provide new residents with an inviting neighborhood they're proud to be part of. The proposed master plan will extend the right-of-way and utilities from Auburn-Knightdale Road to Wall Store Road and allow additional development to move forward to the east and to the west along Wall Store Road. This is our opportunity to look ahead to the future. With new access to utilities on Wall Store Road, we can plan ahead, be creative, be diverse, and be better than the last, and provide a variety of housing, commercial, and retail options in the future to local residents along Wall Store Road. I appreciate the opportunity to work with Madison Holding, Timmons Group, and the Town of Garner planning staff over the last 24 months to develop the proposed master plan. I want to create a positive and lasting impact towards thoughtful growth in the Garner community. Your support tonight will be the catalyst for further development of properties to the east and to the west along Wall Store Road. Thank you for your time and consideration and support in referring the master plan to the Planning Commission. Thank you.
Thank you, and stick around. We'll see if council members have questions of the applicant. We'll start with Mr. Vance. Mr. Bellinger?
I have a question on what is, and you won't be able to answer it, but since you're concerned with the long-term growth of this area, what and when is Burnett Farms going to develop the rest of their properties in Raleigh and in Garner? Because only knowing this larger plan for what's happening in Raleigh and Garner can we evaluate whether this project fits properly. Correct?
Okay, so Burnett Farms LLC owns the remaining property that is shown as rural on that map around the intersection of Rock Quarry and Auburn-Knightdale Road. So Burnett Farms Townhomes and Apartments that is shown as part of the master plan is owned by Madison Holding, an LLC for Madison Holding now. So that is who Mike has been working with. The Burnett Farms LLC piece would be separate, and we have not had conversations with them about their development of their property at this time.
They were the ones who came and got the rezoning.
No.
So,
Madison Holding is the one who came and got
different developer.
Madison Holding came and got the rezoning for Burnett Farms.
Same landowner.
It was the same landowner, yes.
Landowner.
Yes.
So this is what I'm seeing, the splintering of the properties and interests that discoordinates the growth plan. And again, my concern lies on where we have a complete blind spot when it comes to what Raleigh's doing. We're sitting up here trying to make a decision when we don't know. No one can tell us what Raleigh's doing within a quarter-mile radius of this, which is also less, well, maybe a quarter mile to 540. So those are my reservations. It's hard to evaluate this project in the grand scheme when we don't know what the grand scheme is.
I do know Raleigh has rezoned some of that property to commercial and some of it is residential.
You can see all,
But they did not do it with a plan. They have zoning conditions. And it looks like the residential portion is moving forward and the commercial has not moved forward yet.
Just reinforce my position. We need to be aware of all of that and which parcels, where, what's the plan. So it's a lot of concerns. That's all.
Comments or questions? Mr. Single?
Yes. Ms. Blackman, a few questions as I look at the site plan here. It's noted that there's a 2,000 square foot dog park. There'll be a large area, 150 by 75 feet outdoor gathering space. There's also a 6,000 square foot clubhouse and pool. And I'm looking on here, and I'm assuming that's squeezed in here somewhere that we can't see.
That's the Burnett Farms zoning conditions. It's confusing in the staff report because both sets of conditions are listed. Now, those would be amenities that these residents could share, but the next page or two is the actual zoning conditions for this site. And I did measure, there's about 4,000 square feet of open lawn in the area shown on this site beside the SCM above the existing pond.
Between the the area that's just where the private trail is?
Correct.
4,000 square feet.
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
No problem.
Mr. Matthews, question?
I know Mr. Berger and I, as usual, we had opportunity to sit down and talk with the folks and things. It is a limited area right in there, and they do have a good, strong vision, some things they really want to do, and it's one of those little tight fits, but that whole area, as Mr. Dillon said, we don't know what Raleigh is going to do. We could sit here for 10 years and not know what Raleigh is going to do out there. So the question is, how much do we hold back waiting on Raleigh? And so anyhow, I don't have any definite questions. Everything's been presented. Okay.
Great, thank you.
Another question.
Yes.
Beth, do we know why Raleigh moved their activity center away from the original designation further, I believe it's further west?
I do not know, but possibly it's because of the development that was coming, because that area has, recently seen some recently approved development stuff has been under construction in that area that now shows up, on iMaps that wasn't there even a few months ago. But I haven't done a rezoning in that area of Raleigh, so I'm not sure what motivated the change.
Okay, thank you very much. One more question, Mr. Dellinger.
Comment. To what Raleigh's doing, we need to find out. It's not enough to say we don't know. When you don't know something, you go and you find out and you sit down and you ask them, see what their planning department and see what they're doing, so that we can coordinate with them, so that we're both mutually benefiting from the growth that's happening along 540, right there in that bottom corner. The other thing I have concerns with is the selection of a MFB versus MFA, which is, it's not really in the spirit of our UDO, that multifamily 2, which is intense multifamily use, larger structures containing urban character, multifamily developments are clustered around activity. It's really an MFA development, and I think you've used the MFB to get the smaller lot sizes to ram and cram, as Gray would say. That's not a question. It's not consistent with the MFB, even though that was what Burnett Farm was rezoned, which I voted against that too, because I didn't think that was appropriate either. But I'm concerned on the slippery slope and precedent we set for ourselves on what we're expecting out of multifamily B in our new UDO, when this is more aligned with a multifamily A. You might have to put fewer units on it, but that's what you have to do to get it to work. That's my only comment.
Yeah, very, very legitimate concerns, lots of questions, and I guess that's part of the process as this goes to the Planning Commission for more detailed review and then back to this body for final decision at some point in the future. With that being said, could you, Mr. Singleton?
I have another couple more questions from Ms. Blackman. Okay. On the, excuse me. All right. On the south side, the 35-foot perimeter buffer, is that what to be undisturbed, what's there, or is that something that'll be all plantings?
So the south side is a 45-foot perimeter buffer up next to Auburn Village. Is that what you're referring to?
Well, it's not that far down. It's where Wall Store Road starts, and then works its way where it says only a 35-foot type B perimeter buffer that goes all the way down. Yes, it will go down to.
I wonder if you're looking, so prior to one of our neighborhood meetings, we had different buffers. So the newest buffer is a 45-foot type C perimeter buffer starting at Wall Store Road going all the way down to the property line where you run into Auburn Village.
Okay, well, this one's 35, so you're,
okay.
Sorry, I'm just asking.
There are a couple of different examples in the package because of the neighborhood meeting exhibit is in there as well. Okay. And then along the south property line adjacent to Auburn Village, that's a 45-foot type C perimeter buffer as well. It just continues.
I see that one. Okay.
So the one along the bottom would be undisturbed. The one running down the side, actually, some of it doesn't have trees in it right now because it's a farm field.
Right.
So that area would be replanted, would have to be replanted to meet the buffer standards. But if there are trees in it, the intent would be to not disturb it.
And again, the only, you talked about the 4,000 square foot, where there'll be some open space. I'm assuming that's open.
Correct. It's already open.
Okay.
Or some of it is.
And there's the private trail, but then there's the connection to the greenway that is shown, and of course sidewalks on the roads.
Correct.
Okay.
Sidewalks on both sides of all the streets.
All right, thank you.
No problem.
Thank you. And that being said, I will ask our town attorney now, has anyone signed up to speak at the public hearing?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. Carol Poole.
Is Ms. Poole here or wants to speak? I am here. Okay, thank you for coming. Anyone else?
David Smoot or Daniel Smoot.
We're in support, but
Then Jeff Smirko.
right here
We might ask you to come to the podium and give us detail. We heard the Smoot brothers say amen. Now you can lead the prayer. If we would state your name and address.
Certainly, Jeff Smirko, 2521 Glenwood Avenue, Raleigh. And just finishing up real quick, I'm the contract purchaser of some property around the corner, and I'm here just in support of this. I am very pleased to see the quality of the development, the plans that are set before you guys.
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much. Okay, we've recognized the speakers and we've heard the piece. I'm going to suggest now that we close the public hearing. I'll ask council members for a motion about referring this to the Planning Commission.
I move to refer this case to the Planning Commission for consistency review and recommendation.
Second.
Motion by Mr. Vance and second by Mr. Matthews and Ms. Behringer simultaneously. So I'll call for a voice vote in favor of the motion to refer this to the Planning Commission. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Okay. All opposed by nay.
Nay.
Okay. Sounds like 4-1 in favor of passing this along to the Planning Commission.
A question, Mr. Mayor, for Planning Department. What will ask or reach out to Raleigh between now and when this goes to Planning Commission so that they can have a little more information on the bigger picture regarding what is going on in that corridor?
We can reach out to them this week to get updates on the current development proposals that are in the pipeline. We also have access to we located their southeast area plan online. I'll ask our GIS specialist to reach out to see if they actually have that information available in GIS format so we can bring it into this mapping environment.
Thank you.
Yep.
Okay, thank you very much. And we'll move along to the item 3 on the public hearing, which relates to the Wilmington Place subdivision. And Mr. Tresenberg, I'll ask you to give us the overview again.
Good evening again. Case number 3 tonight for public hearings is CZSB 2009 Wilmington Place. As you can tell from the case number, that 20 means that this was submitted back in 2020 originally. This is the oldest, I think, project in the pipeline at this point in time. The applicant is Site Investments LLC, and it is a conditional rezoning request. It's probably closest to a tier 2, but this, again, being submitted in 2020, we didn't even have tiered rezonings on the horizon yet, but we did have conditional rezoning. So we tied them back then to the subdivision plans. And so this actually comes with the subdivision plan. And at the time, the property here, I'm going to get my cursor going again here. This property on the left, future Wilmington Road would be planned to come up through this area. Creech Road is right here. So this western parcel was zoned R9, and this eastern parcel was zoned MR1, which was an obsolete district under the old ordinance. That is actually what Hunter's Mark was rezoned back in the day. I think at one time this was maybe envisioned to be a future phase of Hunter's Mark that never materialized. As the project stands today, it is a request to rezone to multifamily 1 under the old ordinance. If it were to be adopted, we would transpose that to MFA. And it currently has a proposal of up to 55 zero-lot line single-family detached homes and 61 townhouses. I do recall that when this came in for the first time, it was all townhouses to begin with. And somewhere along there, we did talk with the applicant and we retooled, and they picked up on this zero-lot line proposal. To my knowledge, Garner does not have any of that product today, and I'm not sure that anybody's ever proposed to use it. We still do have it in the new ordinance. But a zero-lot line basically means that you push the house to one side of the lot so that you get a larger usable side yard on the other. You may, back 15, 20 years ago or so, when I was coming out of planning school, the Charleston-style development was all the big rage. If you've ever been up to Bedford in the north part of Raleigh off of Falls of the Neuse, they have some Charleston-style homes there. But again, the idea is the houses are longer and narrower, but you have the bigger side yard. In addition to Charleston style, you see kind of the row house, and I believe that's kind of what is proposed here. Again, shorter, longer, deeper houses, but very much that row house kind of feel to it. So the zoning today, though, is R4. So the R9 and the MR1 were translated to R4 when we did the new zoning. So it is a primarily existing single-family style residential zoning. And in select locations, supporting uses might be able to be had. The current use of both parcels currently is completely vacant. There's no improvements of any kind that I'm aware of. Again, just for context, this came in before 160D, but we are still applying 160D rules to the process now. Much like the 1306 Creech project, which was right over here, again, similar setting. Water and sewer, though, are readily available. And the project does have frontage on Creech Road and sits squarely in the planned extension of Wilmington Road and also the intersection of Wilmington and Creech. And I'll come back to that in a little bit. So again, looking at the activity center framework, here Tryon Road extension would be coming up through this area. So the center of this quarter-mile radius neighborhood activity center is kind of in that future southern quadrant of Creech Road and Tryon. We have the regional employment, which I believe is set at 1 mile, down here centered around Jones Sausage Road. And again, we've been talking about the traffic on these roads. Again, none of them have separated infrastructure for bicycles and pedestrians at this time. They are roads that need to be upgraded over time to accommodate that. They do currently still have some room for growth, but we are in need, as we've talked about, of some additional connections and options for routes into and out of the area so that Creech Road is not overwhelmed. So the proposal, again, is for multifamily 1, which would be adopted as multifamily A if approved. The applicant has narrowed down the list of uses in the former MF1 from 21 uses to 3. They are looking, again, to create a little bit of a higher density residential neighborhood, but still In this case, not composed of multifamily, although townhomes are kind of multifamily, but then also the row house concept. The MF1 district did encourage, supporting service uses and other compatible uses, but it also, back then in that ordinance, it said, hey, we should look at each proposed district in its setting and look at the surrounding areas and try to achieve a satisfactory relationship with surrounding properties. So again, we've certainly had many conversations about aesthetics and amenities over those almost 4 years, and the project has evolved, but it certainly has most of its history before the new comp plan was probably even thought of. But we have tried and encouraged the applicant to do what they can to bring it closer to what we would be asking folks today. They do have 3 identified lawn areas. There's actually probably more, smaller little pockets here and there, but 3 primary areas that they have identified that are lawn play areas with pergolas for folks to sit and supervise and keep track of what's going on. They do have also, are situated along that same public greenway corridor that 1306 Creech sits on. So you do see a good section of greenway that comes in through here. The idea is that it would use future Wilmington Road to make the jog further south and then continue along the creek bed. They have committed to having side elevation articulation in all their homes and townhomes, being windows, glazing elements. They have agreed to not use vinyl siding and to employ color and material variations. In addition to just the fact that they would have windows, they've also committed to shutters and window trim, things that will, accentuate those windows and further decorate up the facades. Also to covered stoops and porches, and outdoor decks and patios, and 12-inch roof overhangs on all sides. Here is the overall subdivision plan. So again, I'll point out, here's the greenway coming through. We were also have been talking with them about a connection here so that this is not a dead end to nowhere temporarily, and to also give folks in the Gatewood community convenient access to the public greenway that they would otherwise not have because there's just no room to put one here. Again, you have all of the row house style here. They are clustered, and they are alley served. So you see garages and parking pads in the rear. So these will not be garage front loaded. The townhomes would be garage front loaded. So the whole project area is 39.5 acres. Again, 61 townhouses max here to the east of this creek draw, and 55 of the 0 lot line single family to the west. In total, since part of it's cluster and part of it's not, we reviewed it just as a project as a whole, because technically for open space, the cluster use requires 25%. The townhome use is not clustered, it would only require 10%, but we did agree just to kind of approach it from a whole project perspective. And so there is 25% proposed for the whole project. There's certainly ample conservation areas to achieve that. So it is a combination, though, of conservation and recreation space. That conservation includes floodplain, wetlands, and overlapping riparian buffers. There is some, adjacent tree preservation identified in areas that is actually outside the buffers. So they have brought some of that tree preservation outside of the required areas. And then recreation, again, right now, fields and trails. So again, we're on the north side of the railroad tracks, so it's not in the Lake Benson Watershed Protection Area, but it still is subject to water quality and quantity requirements. They are proposing 3 stormwater control measures that are identified in the master plan as constructed wetlands. Again, there's significant natural wetlands, so I think the idea of constructed wetlands would go well with kind of extending that theme. There would be a connection to the 12-inch water main here in Creech Road. They have direct access to that. And they would also have direct access to the 18-inch outfall here along Little Arm Branch that runs along the entire western and southern and southeastern portions of the site. For transportation, this did not trip the thresholds for a TIA. However, in engineering led extensive conversations with the applicant and NCDOT about the future transportation plan in this area. So we've identified the site as this star. You see here from the transportation plan, the Wilmington Road extension would be more of a gradual curve. Creech Road would eventually get realigned to take out the big curve and create a controlled intersection here and create some adequate spacing also between Tryon Road intersections as well. They would still be maintaining their 2 required access points in the short term. There would be the one from Creech and one to Plaza Drive in the back of Gatewood. And the applicant is aware and would be paying a fee in lieu for half of the future crossing of Little Arm Branch. And as we noted previously, we did not have that requirement when Hunter's Mark was developed, so funding for the remaining half is not currently identified. We would need to look at solutions for that. And Ms. Harrison is here tonight. If you have any questions about those discussions, she can certainly weigh in on that with a little more specificity. The environmental and cultural resources, again, existing floodplains, wetlands, again, all along the south and southwest. You see that better represented here. And those areas are reserved for tree preservation and greenway development. Again, no cultural resources were identified on these parcels. In terms of the public review, there were 115 properties and occupants notified for neighborhood meetings. Back in the day, I'm guessing this was probably just property owners. But they had, and we were just coming out of COVID when this really got underway. They did have a virtual meeting on November 22nd of 2021, a second in-person meeting on December 28th with 12 attendees and 4 attendees respectively. We do support a fresh meeting between now and Planning Commission just to provide an update, if nothing else, to these same folks and to invite occupants as well. But at the time, this request was not subject to a second neighborhood meeting requirement. So they technically have met what they are supposed to do, but I think we're in agreement that a second refresh would be well in order. Full meeting information, again, attached to the online version of the agenda packet. And going back to the comprehensive plan again, we see the framework here. The site is partially within that neighborhood activity center, but it is somewhat tempered by the fact that we have a neighborhood character typology, but probably more so by a development intensity that only shows a level 2 area to strengthen. So we have to, again, as Matt reminded us, take all 3 maps into consideration. No activity center will be exactly like another. So this one may be a little more subdued overall because of this area to strengthen and no really areas to transform. But we do have enhancement areas over here where we might suggest the most dense and the most intense development within that center. So again, we did apply the new plan to it with those growth framework criteria. We identified 14, and you see the breakdown there. It does seem to fit the framework as strongly as some of the other projects we've looked at most recently, which, given the age of the project, I think was definitely a good finding in that regard. But it, again, does lack a playground open space feature. And again, I just noted here that, again, part of the site is within that activity center, which might suggest that the higher densities are appropriate. But with that development intensity category of level 2, you do see kind of a tempering of how much that density should go up. But when we get to Article 3, again, the plan is fresh. The project has evolved over that time. Of the 30 criteria we identified, consistency is definitely divided. There are some changes, though, that we have brought to the applicant's attention that could swing the pendulum further to, I guess, the right, figuratively. Some of those things could be looking at their street frontages and enhancing those more, possibly trying to work their open space a little bit better to create more of a central focal point. They're scattered well, but I don't know that they really provide much of a focal point. And then providing a stronger connection between those open spaces and the street or the public greenway. So again, review overall. Again, just a reminder, this is currently our oldest plans set that's still in the pipeline. There was, though, fairly strong support for framework consistency. It does introduce a new housing type to Garner that's identified in the plan as potentially being able to target the working class. And then just a note, too, that the adjacent area does suffer from that lack of pedestrian and bicycle infrastructure that this project could connect to and try to take away some of the auto dependency that the area currently would rely on. Again, the full detail of that review is attached. So knowing kind of some of the discussion that came out of the 1306 Creech Road, we as staff, we've conveyed to the applicant, I believe, that it is expected perhaps that this one might also be held open for the public hearing to April 16th to finish those discussions or try to finish those discussions about transportation in the area. But in the absence of that, whether tonight or April 16th or a future date, finish conducting and closing the public hearing, sending it to Planning Commission for their findings of plan consistency and recommendation, and then back to Council for your ultimate decision and reasonableness statement. And that's what I have for you here tonight. Again, as with the previous case, the applicant is here. They do not have a formal presentation, but are prepared to comment and answer your questions. And Allison Jones, who reviewed the actual subdivision plan, she is online with us tonight. She's been having a little minor issue, but she is here in case I don't know the answer, and she might have the answer. Like I say, we'll do our best to answer what questions you have, and the applicant is here.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Triesenberg. I think you've done an excellent job of summarizing some of the history, some of the issues. Certainly, as you say, it's the one who's been in the pipeline the longest for some combination of reasons. We've had a couple of changes in UDO, changes in comprehensive plan, changes in zoning designations. There's a lot going on with traffic in that area. As you say, with the last one at our last meeting, that's the next door neighbor to this, and also involved in the Wilmington Road as well as the Creech Road relocation. The council made the decision at that one to hold the public hearing open until April 16th, and that's kind of what you're suggesting here. So at that point, I'm going to ask the council members if they have some particular questions of you or the applicant. We'll start with Mr. Matthews this time.
Thank you, Mr. Mayor. I do like the uniqueness of that new style housing. It's quite interesting. In my travels, I've seen that type of thing. And the Wilmington, completion of that Wilmington Road will be most certainly a positive if that comes to me. But as you had made mention, this thing is about 3 years behind, and we need to update some things to getting, and I would agree with that, holding it open, Mr. Mayor, to give them time to work with staff and/or neighbors to see what we can come up with to remedy some situations, because that is a sensitive issue up there on Creeks Road, and it's got to be some way we can look at doing that. So I'd agree with leaving it open. Let's let them work through some things.
Okay, we'll get some more comments. Mr. Singleton, comments, questions?
Yes, Mr. Friesenberg, just the zero lot line, how wide are these lots up here that are being shown for the single family? Because you said there'd be a side yard to enjoy, and that ain't much of a side yard.
Right. Yeah, they're not huge. They're not meant to be like active yard spaces. They're more passive yard spaces for sitting. I believe they're probably about 35 to 40 feet wide. Generally, what the ordinance requires is if it's 0 on the one side, it has to be double the minimum on the other. And the minimum in this case is 7.5. So there has to be at least 15 feet on that other side. So it really just ends up being whatever the house width is plus that 15 feet at a minimum.
Let me walk.
Yep.
Right, not much of a play yard, more of a landing strip. The very small play areas you show are I'll ask the applicant for that. My concern is this, just bluntly, I will never support this project because the Creech Road realignment needs to take place before anything's approved. That's got to take place. Where that's proposed to come out, I've driven by it all my life, and I stopped the other day where it was proposed to come out. I know DOT approved it. I also know that, of course, it's an incline coming down to it, and you're going down into the bridge and up to the curve, and that's dangerous. The Creech Road alignment needs to be a priority before anything is even thought about being approved here. And this is, well, I'll just use my favorite term of cram and ram, because again, the small play area, I told you I played back in all this. I've walked all that when I was a young boy and played back in all those woods, and so I'm familiar with it. But if we're serious about trying to help Creech Road, then the Creech Road alignment has got to take place before any development takes place, any more development takes place. You've got to create a safe environment. The Wilmington extension, whenever it happens, it'll happen, but it's got to take place, and that alignment needs to be there. We don't know when the Trine Road extension will happen, and that'll help with traffic. But again, unless you're going where Trine Road's going, if you want to downtown Raleigh, you won't use that. You'll continue on Creech Road, either to Creech or Sanderford, and head into Raleigh that way. So the extension, the realignment and the improvements there have to take place. I mean, if we're serious about Creech Road traffic, that and then the connection there, which is a lot with a house on it and buildings on it, have to take place. That just do. I'll stop there.
Okay, thank you, Mr. Singleton. Very relevant observations. Ms. Behringer, comments, questions?
I would have to agree with Mr. Singleton. That alignment needs to take place before any more development so that we can have a mechanism for directing that traffic. You know, it looks like that most of the traffic would head down Creech Road to Sanderford Road into Raleigh, but that road needs help so badly. It's dangerous as it is, and to add more traffic to it before it's been realigned and improved is just not wise. I like that this development addresses the workforce housing need, but we need to do a refresh, and we need to make whoever the powers be are, we need to make sure that they understand that we have got to get Creech Road lined up correctly before we start adding more traffic there.
Thank you. Mr. Dellinger, comments, questions?
Yeah, just on if we decide to keep the hearing open, that public meeting should happen in the interim. So before they come back to the public hearing, we should have that input before it goes to Planning Commission. It's not really fair for Planning Commission to weigh those considerations. I have a question on the Wilmington Road improvements just in general. What is the width of that supposed to be from this point all the way down through where Calabar is? Is it a lane and a turn lane? What's the sort of full width of that improvement when it's done?
I'm a lot shorter than Jeff. I'll come down here. Yes, it's a 2-lane with a turn lane, center turn lane, so 3-lane section all the way down.
This eventual Creech Road improvement, he said controlled, but is that signalized or just controlled as in there's a stop sign there, you don't pull out in front of traffic?
I don't think that's necessarily been decided yet. We would have to do a signal warrant analysis once the intersection exists. With everything that's potentially going up out there and the existing traffic, it seems likely that it would be warranted, but that would have to be done once it's realigned.
Then I have a question. Are there any elevations with this that have been shown, and any square footage of these? Because I've seen there's some on Garner Road and Crosslink Road. I don't know if you've been up Garner Road, and they're right up on the road. It looks terrible. And when I'm looking at this, if this extension ever happened, we're really changing the whole character of Creech Road by putting houses right up against the road when you have an opportunity to leave some buffer. So I'm just kind of curious. Those are two really separate things. Have they supplied elevations? Like, do they have a builder? Do they have anything?
Building elevations?
Yeah.
I will pass that back to Jeff.
Yeah, that's not an engineering question.
Yeah, let me ask, and we could ask the applicant as well, but Allison, are you able to confirm whether or not we had elevations at this point?
No, I have not seen any elevations yet.
Last comment is, I think just that general master plan for this area is sort of in order from this project and some others to work in a cohesive way with the infrastructure in that part of town. So that's the last comment.
Thank you, Mr. Vance.
Mr. Triesenberger, this one is in a similar position as the 1306 Creech Road project that came before us last month. Correct? And the reason was it being held over till April 6th. Studies necessary.
So I recall that there was a motion to study or to get an answer to the larger transportation question. I might have to defer to Ms. Jones for what exactly how that was worded.
I'm good.
Okay.
I'm good.
Okay, well, that's some great input. I'm going to ask, is there a motion on the floor?
I move to hold the public meeting open until April 16th while the applicant gathers the requested transportation information.
That may be premature since we haven't heard public comment yet.
Oh,
Since there are people here and signed up.
Excuse me, that was my fault, not Mr. Vance's. Yes, I had understood the applicant's here to answer questions, but I did not ask, is there anyone signed up to speak in relation to this project? Is there anyone signed up to speak to this?
Yes, there are 3 people, some of which I might be with the applicant. So Charles Walker.
Thank you for keeping us on track.
Sure.
Yes, sir. If you would please state your name and address for the record.
Sir, Mr. Mayor, members of the council, my name is Charles Walker. I am the land planner representing the developer and landowner in this area. My address is 275 North Pea Ridge Road in Pittsboro, North Carolina, 27312. As you can tell, this project is not built for speed. The reason why is because we have modified and remodified and revised this plan as best we could given the parameters that are set upon it. And there are several of them that are fairly lofty. Regardless, Jeff has made a good summary of what we're doing. We're 39.5 acres. We're 116 units total, which is less than 3 units to the acre. So we are far lesser than the other projects that are around us as far as densities goes. The developers and landowners of this project are local. They've done thousands of units. So they're here to stay. They're not going to move out. That's one of the reasons why it took them so long to get this done. They wanted to revise it to make this work. John Frazier from FLM Engineering is here to help if there's any other questions. As Jeff said, we've reduced the conditions down to 3: single families, clusters, and townhomes. We have 20 conditions that reach from the minimum square footages of the homes to architectural detailing. I believe it was Mr. Dellinger that asked about the square footages of the buildings. One of the conditions is for a 1,500 square foot minimum for the townhomes and a 1,750 square foot minimum for the single family homes. The open space in this area with the modified half in, half out gesture with the new ordinance calls for 9.9 acres of open space, which is basically 25% of the lot. However, this project has 41% open space. We have exceeded the open space by a great amount, not the least of which is because of the location of Little Orm Branch, but there is a large floodplain that is attached with the creek, and there's also extensive wetlands within the project. So we tried very hard to make sure we did as little damage as possible to create this project. As far as the idea about having a centralized feature on this project, that was taken out of our hands when Wilmington Road showed up. Wilmington Road is on your town transportation plans, as is the realignment of Creech. Our plan honors both the realignment of Creech and the extension of Wilmington Street. The larger, a couple of the issues we have, but the larger one seems to be transportation. Yes, our only frontage is currently on Creech. However, what we're trying to do in the interim and build as part of the missing links in the town's plan is part of this project. Wilmington Road is a 74-foot wide right-of-way road that is on the transportation plan. We are going to clear and grade the entire right-of-way and build 2 lanes of Wilmington Road, which you know is a parallel to Creech. We are also making a connection to the Gatewood subdivision. The neighbors there were thankful of that because that means that they have more than one way out onto Creech. Unfortunately, there is a house right at the bend of Creech that stops the extension of Wilmington Road to go into existing Creech Road. It's an existing home. The developers tried to purchase it as part of this project. They were denied twice. And then years later, they had sold the house to another individual. We asked to buy it from them, were also turned down. So we've been turned down 3 times to try and get that missing house. There's nothing, unless the town is willing to try and do some kind of condemnation on that, our hands are kind of tied at this particular moment. The other part of this that other neighborhoods in this area don't have, it's response to Big Arm Creek. There's a creek, it's the same creek that the bridge on Creech crosses. We have, on our expense, we paid a structural engineer to actually design a bridge to go over that creek. We priced that bridge and figured out how much it was going to cost. And as part of this subdivision plan, we were going to pay a fee in lieu of $1.6 million as part of this project. It doesn't pay for the whole bridge, but it pays for over half of the bridge. So I believe the staff has mentioned to us with Hunter's Mark that the bridge was not built as part of that project. So half of the bridge funding to create and complete the link to Wilmington to tie those neighborhoods to the south would have to come from someone other than the developer. The recreation areas that Mr. Singleton had mentioned, in our graphic, we just show them as play areas and a circle. Those are placeholders, sir. So once we saw the staff report and asking about playgrounds, we are more than willing to convert at least one of those to a playground. So that's something we're offering now. Another idea that the staff had brought to us was to bring another private connection near the Plaza Drive road extension down and connect to the Greenwood. We'll make that modification to our plan as well. The area that we're trying to do, we cannot solve all the traffic problems, but what we are responsible for, we're doing and we are exceeding. We are connecting to existing subdivisions where we can. We're building a brand new street that parallels Creech. We're setting up for the realignment of Creech, and then paying a large fee in lieu of bill. We don't know what else we can do. We are a far less traffic generator than the project that is proposed to the south of us. Our traffic count wasn't even enough to trigger a TIA request from town regulations. John can come up here and answer any kind of engineering questions you may have, but if you have any questions of me right now, I'd be glad to answer them.
Okay, well, we'll take advantage of that. We'll start and see if the council members have any questions. Mr. Matthews?
Sir.
I can appreciate the fee in lieu of trying to be a part of the solution. I know we've got another development going up that way. We had, a couple of weeks ago, and made the same suggestion to them to some of you guys get together and see what we, private partnership to help remedy this situation. And I don't know if you had a chance to talk to them. I'm sure staff could give you guidance on who those people are if you wanted to make that happen. But that's something to consider also. It cuts down the individual company's costs, or could. And because you get the bridges, it's money, and we understand that. So,
Well, the bridge cost for the engineering drawings that we did, and we did construction drawings for the bridge. We paid Weather Rail Engineering to do the bridge, and the construction costs were over $3.5 million. We are telling you right now, as our commitment to the town, we will pay a check to pay for half of that bridge.
I think that's the idea of taking this thing to the 16th. Might give you that time to talk to somebody also, and kind of see what we can do about working through this thing. And do you understand where I'm going with all that?
I think you're wanting us to try and talk to the subdivision below us. We don't share property lines in any way, shape, or form. We'll be glad to talk to them, but.
And the reason I bring this up, we've done this in some other areas where some different groups got together and made traffic a lot better, and most of them didn't even butt up to the intersection, but just to make that traffic move, they managed to get together. So it can be done, and I would encourage you, if you need to know the details, I'm sure you could get with Mr. Triesenberg and they would discuss that with you. So I think it would be a big part of the solution. I admire your enthusiasm and try to get in and get this thing done, but you can't do it all on your own. So that's just my 2 cents worth, Mr. Mayor.
Singleton, comments?
Yes, Mr. Walker, looking down here, coming up Creech Road. Creech Road, the only frontage at this time of the existing Creech Road will be improved to the road that would connect, that is shown connecting the Creech Road.
Correct.
The Creech Road extension, you showed that build out, but right of way will be dedicated for whoever's going to build the rest of town, the state, somebody. That right of way, I'm assuming, is going to be dedicated to connect from that. Connect that piece up to the Creech Road extension, right?
Correct. The right-of-way will be dedicated, and as it shows on the property map, it'll actually be built from the alley access north.
Make sure I assumed all that was taking place, but I just want to make sure that any and all right-of-way would be taking place. And then when Creech Road, when the extension is complete, Wilmington or whatever, to get the Creech Road to take the curve out, the road will be gone, but you still have a triangle of property there that shows future development.
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Our original plan showed 4 more of the T&D type houses on that triangle, but staff asked us to take that off and list it as future development once the connection of Creech and Wilmington was done, and we didn't have a problem with that.
All I have for right now. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Singleton.
Work that you've done over the past 4 years to bring it up to the point where it is today, but we still have some more work to be done, as Mr. Matthews mentioned, and talking with the other nearby developers and owners would be a good step in the right direction. It may not be something that we're used to doing, but things change.
Dellinger.
No questions or comments.
Thank you for the brief. No questions.
Thank you, sir. One other thing, Mr. Singleton mentioned the T&D style houses, and one of the places that Jeff mentioned was Bedford. Bedford is an award-winning master plan, and I am the designer of Bedford. So I have the experience of what these things do. We've put these in a dozen different municipalities, and the people that tend to buy them are either single professionals or married couples. It's able to have a manageable home on a piece of property that usually younger professionals don't have the ability or wants, needs, or desires to take care of a yard. So that's where the generation has come from, and we think it's a much better setting than 75 more townhomes.
Thank you for the alternative.
Can I ask clarification?
Yes, sir.
So in Bedford, Mr. Walker, that's right, Mr. Walker, right? Okay. I didn't want to mess that up. So are these types of homes throughout Bedford, or is this different pockets?
There are hundreds of them in Bedford.
Okay, I'll go by and see it then. I think I'm maybe
Send
been
some
through before, just don't
elevations.
remember.
Sure.
And some
Well, the
pictures.
reason why we did, the reason why, simply quite simply, why we didn't do any elevations, we knew after everything that we've been through here, this is a negotiation with the town. So we didn't want to say, here, these are our elevations. We wanted to hear what you may or may wanted to do. So as far as our conditions go, our conditions list architectural detailing, but we didn't do all of the elevation work or typical work. So it wasn't a slight on you guys. It was a recognition that we'd have a first step discussion with you guys about what the architecture was going to be.
When we were sitting here, the word character appears 244 times in our comprehensive plan. That's how important it is.
We understand. We absolutely understand. I don't know if you have any questions for Mr. Frazier on the engineering of the project.
Okay, thank you very much, Mr. Walker. And Ms. Jones, do we have some other people signed up to speak tonight?
Yes, Tim Holton.
Thank you. And if you would state your name and address for the record, sir.
Sure. Good evening, Mayor, Council, Town Planners, citizens. Now, before you start the clock, I want to start by addressing the town's new mayor, Mr. Mayor Buddy Gupton, with up accentuated. I want you to know how much I appreciate what a breath of fresh air you are. I've been Garner for a good long time, but you bring a real sense of urgency and a perspective that sets high the sights for our town. Thank you. I wish you the very best as you lead our town forward, and I know I'm not alone. All right, hopefully this floor won't drop. I'm borrowing maybe 30 seconds from a couple fellows back there. Creech Road is a backwards sinkhole, a drag strip for screaming crotch rockets, a dump, a wasteland, a pit. Any of you ever hear anything like that said about this stretch of land and road? I've only been here 6 years, and I know I've heard it. So I'm sure you've all heard it too. Meanwhile, the few dozen homeowners along that stretch are left to endure the ridicule and the disrespect, the devaluing and the neglect. For at least the past 2 decades, the Triangle's been exploding with new home developments. But that Creech Road corridor, that glorious forested gateway, that heavenly home stretch that leads to our beautiful gem, historic downtown Garner, that magnificent mile of Creech Road has been sitting, enduring the negativity, waiting patiently to stop being devalued and disrespected. Something was off. To have hundreds of acres of stunning forested land just sitting in such close proximity to our beautiful historic downtown and minutes to a booming and spectacular state capitol. There was no good reason for this. But patience is a virtue, and good things can come to those who wait. And now we must ensure the good things do come. The aim high Garner kind of good things. The opportunity exists to turn what was known as a backwards dump of a wasteland into a stunning red carpet and welcome mat that screams, "Welcome to glorious historic Garner." A roundabout or two to keep riders honest and peaceful, and this magnificent, long overlooked stretch of land can finally be home to some of the most incredible 21st century, most beautiful, most well-designed, low-intensity, peaceful neighborhoods in all of the Triangle. The disrespect and devaluing days of the past must be over on this side of the Garner tracks. It's time to finally, once and for all time, flip the script as Garner moves forward into the 21st century and beyond. This project is not the best Garner can do. More ramming and cramming. No architectural designs and craftsmanship in keeping with our historic southern town. At least none that they are willing to share yet. If you've lived long enough, you know that when folks don't want to share such things in proposals like this, they just might be hiding something. Those who are proud of their craft and their art love for people to see it. And even in the R9 section of this proposal, there are no yards. Is there even room for a tree in the area where the humans live? This project, along with the other Creech Road proposals, is not the best Garner can do, not even close. This is our Garner. Going forward, when anyone, including any of the 64 to 70 people moving to the Triangle every day, come down this magnificent mile of Creech Road, this glorious northern gateway to our historic town, they will know they have entered our place, our historic place, our peaceful place, our beautiful place, Garner. Thank you.
Thank you. And Tim, let's get your name and address for the record, please, if you don't mind. Very, very relevant conversation.
It's Tim Holton, 411 Longview Street, Garner.
Thank you, sir. And Ms. Jones, we have another speaker signed up.
The only other speaker was Mr. Frazier.
Mr. Frazier, yes, sir. Would you like to speak a little bit?
Hey, John Frazier again. Good evening. FLM Engineering, 8951 Harvest Oaks Drive, Suite 205, Raleigh. The project civil engineer. Just again, happy to answer any questions that you may have.
Any questions from Mr. Frazier? Thank you for being here.
Thank you.
Okay. Okay. And excuse my previous attempt to move faster than usual. I think we've got everyone who wanted to testify tonight, everyone who signed up. So I guess at this point I will look to the council to see if there is a motion afoot.
I move to hold the public meeting open until April 16th while the applicant gathers the requested transportation information.
A motion by Mr. Vance, second by Ms. Behringer, to leave this public hearing open until April 16th for further information on some of the details regarding transportation and other issues on this. All in favor of passing that motion, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Any opposed by nay? Hearing none, the motion passes unanimously, and that closes the public hearing here this evening. Okay. Well, thanks everyone for your patience and input. This is very important stuff. Many details to consider, many ramifications. Okay, moving right along. Do we have any new or old business here? So we'll move right along to committee reports. We have some council members or any reports from the various committees that you might be on. Okay, no council committee reports, but we might have some manager reports.
Mayor, members of council, good evening. It's a pleasure to be here with you this evening. I have several reports to share with you, and the first is just that March is going to be a busy month. We've got lots of great activities and meetings planned throughout the town. Just as a reminder, we've got at GPAC, they'll present on March 8th at 7:30, the Brown versus Board of Education over 50 years later, this coming Friday. So this performance will commemorate the 70th anniversary of the landmark Supreme Court decision in April 1954. We have our very popular Town Spring Egg Extravaganza event scheduled for Saturday, the 23rd at 10 a.m. at Lake Benson Park. We're very excited to share that Kids Peace Foster Care will be a sponsor of this year's event. It's a great event for the community to get together to celebrate spring together. The Parks and Recreation and Cultural Resources Department is going to be hosting a open house community meeting to gather feedback from park users on the inclusive playground that's being planned for White Deer Park. That community meeting is scheduled for Monday, March 24th from 4:30 to 6. And once again, that's going to be at White Deer Park. And believe it or not, although we're in spring, we're already planning for the summer, and registration for our summer camps at Avery Recreation Center, the Garner Recreation Center, White Deer Park, and GPAC are all open. And information about each one of these camps can be found on the town's website. In addition to all we have going on in the Parks and Rec Department, we've got several activities happening with our police department. Excited to remind council that the 10-week Citizens Police Academy will begin on March 11th at 6 p.m. It's a 10-week program. Citizens apply to be in the program, and it'll start in March and end in June. Very popular program here in town. The Police Department will also be hosting a barbershop rap session. These are very popular sessions that we're able to bring back after the pandemic. The next one will be Saturday the 16th from 10 a.m. to noon, and it's going to be at Monique's Barber and Beauty Shop on Main Street. So very excited to share that. In addition to what's going on in the police department, happy to share an update with council on our Caddy Road Public Safety Station 5 project. Construction is scheduled to be finished by the end of this month. We're very excited about that. April, they'll be reviewing the facility, looking at any punch list items, and moving in the furniture in April, and plan to move in and start using the new station in May. There'll be an official ribbon cutting for the new station in the June timeframe. So we're very excited to see that project almost to completion and ready to be open within the May timeframe. Also wanted to remind council of our meeting with NCDOT this Friday. They're going to provide an update on the Highway 50 project. It's a public meeting. It's going to be held upstairs in our training room, and it's scheduled from 10 a.m. till noon on this Friday. In addition to those projects, we do have an update on the Garner Road Sewer Project, and I'm going to ask Ms. Harrison if she wouldn't mind coming up and providing a quick update as that project gets underway.
Good evening. The City of Raleigh has a sewer project. You probably have heard about it for a while. It's been in the works, but it is to upgrade the sewer line in Garner Road from Cofield Alley to east of New Rand Road. There's currently an 8-inch concrete sewer line there. They will be upgrading it to a 12-inch and updating the material as well. The contractor is scheduled to begin that project on March 25th, and the contract duration is 240 days. So they will be out there working for quite a while. Both the city and the contractor believe that they will be able to finish it more quickly than that, but that is the time that they are allotted in their contract. There will likely be lane closures associated. We have told them that if there are going to be any full closures, we need to be made aware of that well in advance and permit that through the police department. So just to make you aware of that project. Ms. Behringer will be glad to know that with that project, they are going to raise all the manholes that are too low within the project area. So hopefully a smoother ride when it's all said and done. And the project manager for that project did say that she'll work with sewer maintenance to get the ones that are outside of the project area as well, so that whole region will be covered when they're finished.
Department more cookies.
Sounds good. The other piece of that, which I believe Jody's going to pick up on after I mention, is that the contractor on that project, Moffett Pipe, has asked the town if they would be willing to allow them to use our property at 301 Parker Street as a staging area. This is the property at the corner of Parker and Montague. Moffett Pipe is the same contractor that we used on the New Rand Road project, and we allowed them to use that parcel for staging then, so they have made the request to do the same for this sewer replacement project.
This is something that the staff recommends that we partner and put something in writing in order to expedite this project and make sure that it's easy for the contractor to be able to complete. So if there are any questions or concerns from council, we'd love to hear them now. If not, we'll go ahead and work on an agreement for them to be able to use that property for the duration of the project time period. Great.
From Cofield Alley to just east of the intersection with New Rand Road.
Correct.
Or like how far are you? I'm just curious. I know where the park property is. I'm just curious how far. It's just on the other side of it?
I don't remember exactly how far. I could definitely send you a snip from the plans showing the exact limits of the project. It's not immediately after the intersection. It does go a little bit further past New Rand.
What's in this line? I'm assuming it's on the side where all the manhole covers are.
Mm-hmm.
So Garner Road will not only get this will be put in, but also part of Garner Road's going to be resurfaced.
It will, yeah. The paving will have to be redone when they're finished. Mm-hmm.
Thank you. All right. Final update for council, and last but certainly not least, just a reminder that our special spring yard waste and large trash pickup starts on March 11th. And so more information available about the timing of that on the town's website. We'll also be working with Public Works and our communication team to push information out to the community to remind them of that opportunity.
It was in the water bill today.
Great. So it was in the water bill today. Everybody check their water bills. So.
Everything's in there.
So, great. Those are all the updates that we have for council this evening, and I'm happy to answer any questions that council may have.
Miller, could you state? I'm sorry. Could you state the date again for the inclusive playground meeting?
Yes. So that meeting will be held on Monday, March 24th, from 4:30 to 6.
How about the 25th? That's altitude of the 24th. We're in. You said March.
I said March 24th.
That's March 24th is Sunday.
Okay, so March 25th.
Okay, just want to make sure. And that's at White Deer Park.
At White Deer Park, from 4:30 to 6 p.m.
Thank you.
Well, there's a lot going on. Everybody likes to see sewers work, and they like to see new pavement with manholes at the right level. So, yeah, thank you very much for all that information. Very, very helpful. And I believe we have an attorney report or two.
Yes, sir. So as you know, I was at the Municipal Attorneys Winter Conference last week, and I'll be sharing information that was provided to us by the League and the School of Government. I'd also like to let you know that last year I participated in a video to recruit municipal lawyers. So I, along with the town attorneys of Manteo, Hickory, Raleigh, and Charlotte, were featured in that. And I was filmed at the Garner Rec Center for that. So I'll be sharing that video with you. It's about 6 minutes long. But for my day job, I'm pleased to report that the Tryon Station Affordable Housing Loan did close today. So the town has contributed $750,000 to that affordable housing project. That'll be over a 30-year term. The School of Government will be holding a workshop on legislative zoning decisions. We recommend that this be a joint training with the Planning Commission on May 16th from 1 to 4:30 p.m. It's an online Zoom course, but what we would plan to do is have it in the training room so that all the members of the Planning Commission as well as council can participate in that. They alternate each year. This is the year for legislative decisions such as rezonings, text amendments, map amendments, and then in the odd years, they do the quasi-judicial decision, such as special use permits. So I think it's probably a good time to have that refresher on, best practices as well as any new law changes with respect to legislative rezoning applications. And then I also provided to you the Walters Buffalo Development Agreement monthly report regarding the White Oak and Bryan Road improvements. So you should have that in your email. And that concludes my report tonight.
Well, again, a lot of stuff going on. Thank you, particularly putting together that School of Government training. It seems to be a joint venture, a joint meeting of the Town Council and the Planning Commission. We can all hear the same thing at the same time. And we probably will be getting an Outlook invitation. It's May 16th, 1 to 4:30 in the training room. It'll be virtually from the School of Government, but we'll be there in person. and we'll have an attorney to guide us through and answer questions as we go. So this is good stuff, good stuff. Thank you. That brings us to council reports. Are there any other reports from council members? Mr. Dellinger.
Question on the budget. I know an email went out around dates. If you could provide an update on the cadence of getting the budget updates, because I think it was a May meeting we're trying to set, but what sort of the cadence for other meetings we'll be talking about the budget?
Certainly. So the email that went out was just to find a date to do our official budget work session. So that would happen after the recommended budget came out, or an early part of May. I believe May 7th is when that would be presented to council. So right now, working with the budget team, we would anticipate checking in with council on sort of where we are with the recommended budget, probably mid-April is what we would want to do. And that gives us time to make any final updates and revisions to the recommended budget before it's presented to council on May 7th for further deliberations and discussions.
It might be helpful to get something at the end of March, even just a brief kind of in between. So if there's any input we have, I know that a couple of years ago, we got input in a little bit later than was helpful to staff. So I think just getting a little update sooner would be helpful, even if it's in small groups or something, just so we're kind of in the flow of the direction. So
Certainly, we can look at the schedule for doing that. I also want to remind council that for your April work session, we'll be doing an update on the CIP as well. So there'll be more discussions as we build up to the recommended budget.
Fantastic. Fantastic. Mr. Vance?
I'd like to say that on March 1st, had the opportunity to participate in Read Across America, to go to Timber Drive Elementary School and sit in the class with the kindergartners and their small chairs I had a hard time getting out of, but it was a great time for just being there for that opportunity to.
Yeah, I think there were several of you who participated in that,
Yes.
so that's a good thing. Mr.
I
Dillon,
did
I
have
know
one
there's
more.
thing. There's
We got
one more.
Optimus Barbecue this Friday from 11 until we sell out, or 7 p.m. It's $12. It's pork barbecue. So
Is that in or out or both?
I'm not sure. I think they may be doing both, but I'll double check. Go to the website, it'll say. But they have the carry out drive through for sure. So
I bet you if you want to sit down inside and eat it, they'll let you eat it.
They would.
as long as it's not raining.
Right, that's right. Great. Any other observations from council?
Yes, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to remind everybody this coming Sunday, and I know you're going to be there, and I'm going to be there, and everybody's invited. It's the Salute to the Troops. It's going to be at Avisboro Baptist Church from 4 to 6. Military displays. There's going to be inflatables. Miss North Carolina's going to be there, and good old hot dogs, which us troops like. So everybody's invited. Family, bring the kids out there, and it's going to be a great time. I also had joined a group this Monday morning. Second time I've had the pleasure of doing this, and I posted it on Facebook up at Avisboro Road School in the mornings, where they got the police out there, and that school they had a few issues, but now when the kids get out of the cars, there's music playing, everybody's high-fiving, getting stickers, they're hugging the police and certain council members and a few things, but it's getting them really cranked up and excited about coming to school, and it's made a big change. I know they're not doing one this Monday, but the following Monday, and it starts about 8:45, and you're done about 9:15, and everybody's out there. But it means a whole lot to the kids and the parents. I know when they drive by, they're blowing the horn and videoing everybody, so it's created a whole new. I never went to school like that, so it made me want to go back. But
Nobody cheered for you?
No. Leave, please.
Have applaud every time you win, I'm sure.
And last thing, just a question. You know, we've got a lot of stuff going on Garner Road out there. We're looking at a lot of things, and there's an old concrete plant out there. I rode by it today, and I said, I wonder what's going on here. Is this thing going to be uprooted or taken away, or what's the latest and greatest? So if we're going to do all that beauty potentially across the road, and you walk out, and there you are. Is there any updates?
Anybody want to address that?
We've been working with the owners of that, and we'll see if they've got a more up-to-date update from the last one we got and provide that to you all.
Good, thank you, Mr. Hodges. It reminds me of the substation down near the 42nd Street Oyster Bar. That was quite an obstacle, but they've turned it into a feature.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it was something
Black
that was
lights.
ugly and the wrong thing, but they cleaned it up, they shined some purple lights on it or some crazy stuff, and all of a sudden it's like art. Do we have the same potential out here? I don't know.
I don't know if that concrete plant could be lit up. I think probably needs to go.
It's a stretch, but you get the feeling.
But good thought.
Just remember, it's on railroad right away.
Yeah.
And chances anything if different happening than what's there now is slim and none.
Can we at least put a purple light on it or something?
I'm sure we could, but we've got to get their permission. You have to sign a 12-page contract to put a purple light out there.
We'll put
Exaggeration.
We'll put ours across the street and shine on it. How about that? But no, another challenge, another opportunity. And
That's all I got, sir.
Because there's going to be some great stuff at the park, across the street and all that. We really got to do what we can. And there's all, Ms. Behringer.
Yeah, well, to the point about the concrete plant, just getting it cleaned up and closed down and all those concrete blocks moved away will be a vast improvement.
Maybe that day will come.
I'm looking forward.
I've just passed this along to remember those trucks have been going there for decades, and gas and oil, and that is probably an environmental issue.
It may well be, but removing the concrete blocks that's not going to affect the
There's
gas
always
and
more to
oil.
it than meets the eye.
That might be part of the problem.
Yeah,
It doesn't get fixed until you start.
that's right.
Okay. Mr. Mayor, I'd like to note that the month of March is designated as Women's History Month. And in that regard, I noticed at the library last week, there is a display as you walk in the door honoring notable women of Garner. And the display has both pictures and commentaries for Helen Phillips, Pam Cash, Anna Hudson, Angela Micas, Janice Stevenson, Kay Whaley, Rosemary Carmichael, Lorraine Jordan, Mary Lou Todd, Linda McLean, Maya Silka Perry, I never met this lady, and myself. And so I am honored to have been included with that group of people for the contributions that we have made in the town of Garner over the years.
How long is that going to be there?
A whole month, I think.
Okay.
It's to the left as you walk in the door,
This side or the other side?
the library. Walk in the door, it's on the left
And
side,
there's an entrance on this side and there's an entrance on that side.
the main entrance.
Okay, thanks.
Okay.
Just checking.
Excellent. That's very exciting. I'm making a big, here goes my weekend. A lot of stuff to do.
I just am really happy. I knew most of those women, and I saw the work that they did, and most of it went unacknowledged, or at least certainly not shouted from the rooftops. And I am so glad, particularly Pam Cash. Pam did a lot of behind-the-scenes things, and unfortunately, she passed away a few years ago. And I'm glad that we are acknowledging this at this time.
She certainly left a mark.
She did.
Certainly left a mark. Okay. And if there's no other business or comments or questions, I will accept a motion
So move to close.
to adjourn.
It's closed session.
Well, there is no closed session,
Oh, okay, good.
but thanks for asking.
You want one? You can do it.
We can have
You
one.
can make one. I'll second Mr. Vance's motion to adjourn.
Okay, but thanks for asking, but we don't have one this time. So, motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
And opposed by nay. None. Hearing none, it passes unanimously. And we will stand adjourned for the regular meeting of March 5th. Thank you all for coming, particularly the citizens. Thank you.